Hey guys, it's Emma Vigling with TYT Politics. Hope you're having a lovely morning. tytnetwork.com/go. Don't forget to go to that website. Okay, so breaking news. It really wasn't much of a surprise. It was announced a few days ago that, yes, it was going to be Rex Tillerson, the former ExxonMobil CEO and executive. I'm going to give you I think, a pretty balanced but progressive outlook, as I like to do, on what this pick potentially means. I think there's some good news. I think it's slim, but I'm taking what I can. I think there's some okay news, and I think there's some ugly news. So let's first start off with the good, because it's a Tuesday morning, and I don't want to ruin your guys' entire day. Good. He's not John Bolton. So Donald Trump did not go with John Bolton, the former George W. Bush, war hawkish, conspiratorial person who believes in false flag operations, who should be hanging out with Roger Stone and Alex Jones. I was about to say Oliver Stone. I watched too many movies. So glad it wasn't John Bolton and his freaky, horrible beliefs about the world, and that mustache spells bad news for everybody. Secondly, there is potential that Rex Tillerson isn't going to be as bad on climate as we think that he is. This was a quote from a New York Times article. Some energy experts say Mr. Tillerson could encourage Mr. Trump to support the International Climate Accord negotiated in Paris last December, but with added emphasis on the benefits of natural gas and ways to buy carbon waste. So there's twofold here. One, it looks like he's willing to play ball if it affects the interests that he's particularly interested in, which I'll get to later, that he's not entirely gone and not entirely disconnected from his ties to ExxonMobil. Go figure. And it also goes to speak to the fact that, yeah, the Paris agreements are kind of weak tea. But I'll take it where I can get it with a Trump cabinet pick for Secretary of State, even though this guy has no formal government experience, and that's what they're going to be apparently focusing on in the hearings about Rex Tillerson on Capitol Hill. And what people are most concerned about is, yes, his no formal government experience, but also his close ties to Russia and his strongman president, Vladimir Putin. So I have a little bit of a differing opinion on that from a lot of progressives, but we'll see. This is the okay portion of the good, the okay, and the ugly. I'm going to read from another New York Times article. Tillerson will be a credible and effective messenger for the U.S. reset. This is a quote, by the way, from David Goodwin, who was the Secretary of Department's top energy diplomat during Obama's tenure. Tillerson will be a credible and effective messenger for a U.S. reset because he's not a member of the foreign policy establishment, and also because he has a history that embodies the investment potential Russia could enjoy with a better relationship with the United States. Of Mr. Trump, Mr. Goldwyn said, he's definitely decided to do a reverse Nixon and side with Russia against China. He thinks we probably can make common cause with Russia in Syria, but also in Libya, and he doesn't have a problem supporting strongmen. And then the article continues, Russia may be Tillerson's strength, but it also could ultimately be his Achilles heel. The Russian government gave him the country's Order of Friendship decoration in 2012, an award that could now well be an embarrassment. Senator Marco Rubio, Republican in Florida, said on Twitter Sunday, being a friend of Vladimir is not an attribute I'm hoping for with the Secretary of State. So, all of Democrats, a lot of progressives, a lot of establishment Republicans, John McCain, you can add to the list of those who are unhappy with Rex Tillerson's relationship with Vladimir Putin. I find it to be such a ridiculous staple of hypocrisy that we're upset that a business owner who had direct dealings with Vladimir Putin and had direct dealings with Russia that would advance his own business interests is now being decried for doing something that was advantageous for his company as CEO. Like, I don't see that as a negative. I understand that people want to fearmonger about Russia, and I totally understand that. Vladimir Putin is a right-winger. He's an authoritarian. But we also support a variety of authoritarians across the globe, yet we pretend like that doesn't exist. We pretend like our close relationship with Saudi Arabia doesn't exist, when it is infinitely more problematic than anything that Vladimir Putin has done. Infinitely more, the government there is infinitely more totalitarian, more bloodthirsty, more what have you. Yet we have this basically PR stunt from our politicians trying to villainize everything that Russia does. So I'm someone who likes to look at the concrete evidence of what Russia does, and there have certainly been a ton of bad under Vladimir Putin. I'm not going to be an apologist here, but the boogeymaning is so ridiculous, and so you can't really have it both ways. Congress is the fact that he's never had any government experience a problem, or is it the fact that he was a CEO of an international corporation dealing with foreign leaders the problem, and being friends with them the problem? So I find that line of attack to be incredibly weak and not something that I would really care about if I were a member of Congress, but hey, what do you know? I'm not. So I can say whatever the heck I want, and I'm on YouTube, and that's the fun of it. So there are certainly some ugly, though. So this is where his business ties come in. I talked yesterday about how George W. Bush, back in his presidency, obviously we all know about the memo that he received a month before 9/11, telling him that there was going to be a pending attack from Al-Qaeda and from bin Laden. Did not listen. Trump is now saying that he does not want to have security briefings, and he doesn't see the value in them, daily ones. So that's flashes of George W. Bush back then. I think Tillerson is certainly not as insidious as Dick Cheney, but there are flashes of Dick Cheney in this pick, because Tillerson is 100% going to use this position to advance his own business interests, specifically the interests of ExxonMobil, and that's bad for the globe and the planet, and that's also bad for our country to have the person in the most important cabinet pick position potentially using the position to enrich himself and to line his own pockets. So yes, this is the ugly portion. One, the ugly is that I think it's not Mitt Romney. God, the fact that Mitt Romney was the bright spot into what the pick could have been, but apparently, according to Roger Stone, take everything this idiot says with a grain of salt, but Donald Trump was using Mitt Romney to humiliate him and meeting with him, which is psychotic, but there's no evidence that that's the case, but we'll see. So, Tillerson using the presidency to personally enrich himself is by far the most scary part of this pick. So, I will read again from the Times. Likely to come up at confirmation hearings would be Tillerson's potential interest in seeing Exxon succeed in Russia and elsewhere in the future. According to company filings this year, Mr. Tillerson owned $218 million in company stock, and his pension plan was worth nearly $70 million. Whew! What a pension plan. I wish that our teachers and firefighters could have the same kind of pension plan. Raymond C. Offenheiser, president of Oxfam America, an anti-poverty organization, said his group questioned how Mr. Tillerson would balance the pressure to transact short-term deals against his larger responsibility to strengthen the rules and institutions that protect economic hope and fundamental human rights for so many on the planet. Mr. Offenheiser added, under Tillerson's leadership, Exxon has continued to work to undermine climate science. So, that's the worst part. And the fact that he has $218 million in company stock, which I'm sure he'll put in some sort of trust or give to someone close to him, where he can pretend like he doesn't really know what's going on in that portfolio while using the position to personally enrich himself. Of course he's going to. Of course he's going to. He's a CEO with no government experience. Why else would he be interested in this position besides power and money? It's always about the money. And people that pretend it's not are so freaking naive. This article continues. Mr. Tillerson's opposition to sanctions for Russia made sense given Exxon's interests there, supporters say. Exxon has been active in Russia for decades, and it has various joint ventures with Ronsfet outside Russia. Western sanctions against Russia have hurt the company, costing it as much as $1 billion by some estimates. The company is unable to collect revenue from an investment in oil and gas consortium that operates off the Sakhalin, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, island, or develop other unconventional projects like Arctic offshore and shale drilling. So, Sakhalin, I've never even heard of that before, but I did not know how to pronounce that, and now I'm harping on it. So, obviously, Tillerson's position and his friendship with Russia is problematic in the sense that he's going to use it to personally enrich himself. I don't think a friendship with Vladimir Putin in itself is as problematic as the rest of the establishment wants it to be, because they just want to demonize Russia. But the fact that he's doing so to personally enrich himself, that's the problem. But they don't care. The Republican establishment certainly does not care about ExxonMobil getting enriched by him being a part of Trump's cabinet. They just care about the optics of it being involved with Russia. So give it a rest, freaking Marco Rubio, palling around with Vladimir Putin. Who cares? Except if the end result is that we keep our trade interests alive and we don't go to war. That's really all I care about. And our economy doesn't crash. So that's really my thoughts on it. But it's somewhere between John Bolton and Mitt Romney. And I want everyone to be on the lookout for the fact that this could be Dick Cheney 2.0, except with war not being the end result, oil and fossil fuels and our planet destruction being the end result. So it would be a much more insidious, much more undercover kind of enrichment. We wouldn't see the horror in front of our face like we did with the Iraq War. We wouldn't. The corruption would not be as in our face, but as progressives and as young people who have to inhabit this planet after these old farts die, we have to be vigilant and remain strong and hold this guy's feet to the fire if he's using this position to personally line his own pockets. So that's all I have for you guys today on YouTube Live. I'm sure Jordan and I will be on Facebook Live later today, and have a lovely day. I have to take my dog to the vet now because he has an eye infection. Oh.